The NBA is terrified of the OKC Thunder. At this point, after being in the rebuilding process for a couple seasons now, when you look at the Thunder roster, they actually have a lot of talent on it. As they were fortunate enough to get a guy in gilgeous-alexander who's a true cornerstone piece of their organization via trade, but also over the previous couple seasons, they were able to make high draft selections which turned out to be Chet Holmgren and Josh Giddey, who at this point are also critical parts of their organization. And at this point, I actually like a lot of the different players the Thunder have on the roster, and I do think they could be somewhat competitive during this upcoming season. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. When you look at what the Thunder were able to do over the last couple seasons, it's exactly what you want to do as an organization when you're rebuilding. They decided to move on from both Paul George and Russell Westbrook at the time, and in both of those deals, not only were they able to get some really nice young players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and others, but in both of those deals, they were able to get a ton of draft capital in return as well. And the reason why that's important to really any organization, but especially a team that's rebuilding, is you give yourself as many lottery tickets as you possibly could, and your future instantly becomes that much brighter. Because when you look around the NBA and you talk about some of the better teams at drafting young talent like the San Antonio Spurs, the Golden State Warriors, and others, all those teams have a really good track record, but at the same time, all those teams have drafted players that just haven't panned out. Drafting successful young talent is one of the hardest things you can do as an organization. So when you talk about a rebuilding organization and you're able to get a ton of draft picks to add to your organization, at that point, you just give yourself more opportunities to be right, basically. And when you talk about a rebuilding organization that's probably going to have some top 5 selections, if you're right with one of those picks, that can completely change your organization for the better. As if you're right with one of those selections, instantly your team could become a playoff contender, and instantly you go from a rebuilding organization to an organization that's pushing for the playoffs. And then the organization might consider trading away some of the extra draft capital that they've acquired over the years and trade it away for some players that can provide right away and help the team right away in that playoff push. So obviously there's a lot of different things you can do when you get a ton of draft picks on your side. But at this point, the Thunder have had a ton of draft picks for a decent amount of time now, and they've made some of those selections. So when you look at their actual roster at this point, I do think they are ready to take the next step. And what I mean by that is I think they're going to be a little bit more competitive this upcoming season than they were in the past. And the question at this point is, why do I feel that way? Why do I think the Thunder are going to be a much better team this upcoming season than really they ever were in the past? Well, in my opinion, the first and main reason has to be the overall talent on their roster. When you look at their best player on the team in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's a guy who, in my opinion, already at this point is a star, but he's a guy who's only going to get better with time. But when you look at his actual game, he's just a very talented offensive player. He does a really nice job from that 3-point range, whether you talk about the catch and shoot 3-point jump shot, crossover, sidestep, step back, he just has it all from that 3-point area. But moving on to his mid-range game, he also has a really nice ability from there as well, as he has a really nice one dribble pull-up, has a pretty nice post turnaround fadeaway, and has all the same abilities that he does from that 3-point range in his mid-range game as well. But once driving all the way to the basket, Shai is also very crafty, as he has nice floaters in the lane, can finish around players with crafty layups, either his left or right hand, and overall in terms of his scoring ability, I would just say that SGA is very smart out there, and it always seems like he knows what to do, and he always goes to the right spots to find himself open looks out there. But the great thing about SGA is not only does he have a very prolific scoring ability, but he also does a great job at running an NBA offense, and he always gets his teammates involved and gets some easy looks, which is exactly what you want to see from your point guard. But even besides SGA, the Thunder have some other talented guys like Josh Giddey, who's another guy who has a great ability to facilitate out there while also having a decent ability to score for himself as well. They also have have a guy in Chet Holmgren who this season is going to be his first official season with the Thunder, and in my opinion, I think he's going to have a really nice two-man game with both SGA but also Josh Giddey, just due to the fact that at his size, he has a lot of different skills that you wouldn't necessarily expect a player to have at that size and position. Also, the Thunder have players like Jalen Williams, who I'm personally a big fan of, as well as Pokashevsky, Trey Mann. There's just a bunch of different guys on this roster who I think are very talented players and are going to be very successful players in the long-term future. Now, the next reason for why I think the Thunder are going to be much more competitive this upcoming season as opposed to what they were over the previous couple seasons is due to the fact that a lot of their younger players are going to have another year of experience under their belt. Now, obviously, there are a few players on this roster that are going to be going into their first official season with the Thunder, but when you look at some of the other guys on the team like SGA, Josh Giddey, and some others, those guys are obviously extremely talented and they're going to have another year of experience under their belt to get a little bit better. And when you talk about younger teams in the NBA, and especially younger rebuilding teams, you expect them to only get better with time, and just due to the fact that another year has passed, you would expect a lot of those younger guys to get at least a little bit better this season as compared to last season. And when a lot of different players get a little bit better, your team is probably going to be a decent amount better. But the last reason for why I think the Thunder are going to be a more competitive team this upcoming season as opposed to what they were during the previous couple years is due to the amount of draft picks they have. Now, some of you at this point may be asking, what does draft selections have to do with their play during this upcoming season? Well, in my opinion, as I mentioned before in the video, I do think the Thunder are going to be a little bit better than people expect. And if halfway through the season, the Thunder are clearly in the playoff picture, the Thunder's front office might decide it's time to make some deals and bring in some guys that can help the Thunder right away. And since they have a ton of draft picks within their organization, maybe they would decide to trade away a couple of those picks and bring in some players that would help them right away. And the best part about it is the Thunder wouldn't need to give up any individual players in a deal to make their overall team get better, just giving up draft picks, which is something that's extremely valuable for these kind of teams that are slowly getting better. But as I mentioned before, I do think this last part is going to be based upon how good the Thunder actually get this season. If they don't necessarily improve as quickly as people expected, then of course the Thunder aren't going to trade away picks, but if they get a lot better than people expected, I could definitely see the Thunder trading away at least a couple picks to get a little bit better during this upcoming season. But regardless of how the Thunder played this season, I will say I am extremely excited to see what they can do also in the long-term future. Because even if they don't necessarily excel as fast as people are expecting this upcoming season, I still do think they have an extremely bright future just based upon the players they have currently on the roster, but also due to the fact that they have a ton of draft picks as well, and they have a great organization, a great general manager, a great president of basketball operations, and a lot of guys within the organization that just know what they're doing, which is something that's also extremely important for a younger organization. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening for a lot of these players in the Thunder and also the Thunder as a whole. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the Thunder scare a lot of different teams in the NBA, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these two videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.